Hello, everyone. We are back again.
Back again for another day of fun.
I think our first interview went very well.
I do agree.
I have to say, though, I think it was a little overzealous of us in the very beginning of this, thinking that we could complete an interview once a week.
Yeah, that was definitely ambitious.
However, we're still going to do this once a week. It's just the interviews may be every other week so that we can structure them. We're not a fan of structure, if you haven't been able to have guessed that already.
I don't know, man. I can get behind some brutalism, you know.
I prefer us doing this like the way that we have been, where it's not very structured. I think structure can ruin things sometimes. I think like if we had a giant whiteboard and literally had a plan for every single episode and every interview, we're going to do this, this, and this, I think the show would kind of suck.
I, for one, would go insane.
The one thing about COVID that did something to America is threw a curveball at corporate America, and it had to unstructure them a little bit. So it was kind of cool to see these companies unstructure themselves and have to change and create something new. It seems that a lot of these companies, it was the same thing for so long, and now they had no choice but to evolve.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, a lot of people are protesting the whole idea of going back to work after having worked from home for so long, and I think that's good. What it ultimately shows you is that colleges, I think, are a good example, because a lot of the colleges were saying, oh, well, you know, our tuition fees are based on, you know, all the benefits of our campus, you know, and blah, blah, blah. And tuition fees didn't go down at all during COVID. But most people weren't even there using the campus. So it's not even a matter of like, oh, well, we don't have the infrastructure to make all the classes like online classes. Like, no, you did. You had the ability to do it this whole time. You were just too lazy to implement it.
I think tuition went up for people like normally it does. I don't think there was any adjustment whatsoever. And I completely agree with you. There was infrastructure to make it so that there could be e-learning classes. They were doing online classes for at least a decade.
Yeah.
Hang on.
When the dog starts barking, got time to wait for the podcast. Here's a fun fact, everybody. It's 100% legal to be buried at sea in the USA. You basically just wrap the body in a sheet and throw some weights at least 3 miles from shore and throw it off the boat.
So anywho, these colleges had the infrastructure for quite some time. I was in college over a decade ago at this point, and Marist had an entire e-learning system where you could do online classes, and it was no problem at all. So if there are universities that have been around for all this time getting $50,000, $60,000 a year, and you mean to tell me that you don't have the infrastructure to do it, I think you're full of shit. And somebody's getting paid too much again to not invest that money in the e-learning online platform.
Even if the infrastructure wasn't there, the money was there to create it. And the only thing that was stopping everybody was, I don't know, I guess just there was no incentive. There was no incentive for to try and implement anything like that. Even though obviously it would be helpful, especially considering a lot of, you know, classes and things take place during cold and flu season. I mean, like, I don't understand why we as a country haven't adopted mentality like this way sooner than now.
Unless it has something to do with the more corporate side of college, where the big companies are getting into the ears of the board of the college saying, we don't want people getting used to being able to do work in a non-social setting.
Yeah.
So I'm sure some one way or another, these big companies are involved because they don't want people to not socialize. They need employees to be sociable, which I get that too. There is an aspect of going to school in person, so you're able to get the social aspect of life. I mean, if you never meet people, you become a half-wit and you're not able to socialize, and then you're that 31-year-old person at a networking event that is just like, how do I say hello to someone?
Yeah. You just stay in the corner.
And I do feel bad for those people because that was me at one point. Like my first networking event, I was nervous. It's just, you got to figure out a way to break the ice, and then you start talking away. But if you've never socialized and it does seem weird. And I usually feel bad for those people. So like, I'll talk to them, but then dude, once you start talking to them, it's like, all right, shut the fuck up. Like, what did I do?
Yeah. You are now my only friend here. Yeah, I feel bad, I guess, for people like that too. But you know, I can understand it from like the from the college side of things, when you're in school in general, like in a learning environment, it is important to socialize too. That's a good aspect of things, like networking in college and all that is arguably just as important as the academic side of things. But in a corporate setting, I think the idea of people going to like physically commuting to work is more of a control thing. I think when you're there in the building, like physically present for your job, I feel like that's a a corporation's way of kind of exerting some level of control over you and as an employee. I don't know, like maybe it makes you more obedient. I don't know, but
I'm
that's
sure
what
it does. They think if you're there, you're going to work harder and not have that time where you may steer off on your phone or throw on a video or listen to music because you're using their equipment, right? You go into the office and you have their desktop computer. It's not like you go into an office and you're meant to bring in your own laptop.
That's true, yeah.
I guess at the same time, though, if you're working from home, they may give people laptops, and I'm sure they're going to do the same blocking. It's probably going to get invasive to the fact where you have to have your camera on. And there's probably, I don't want to say it's spyware, but there'll probably be laptops where it sees the person in front of the computer. So if you're moving and it doesn't see any motion or movement in X amount of time, it'll probably keep track of that. And it'll turn into one of those things where you get a phone call saying, there were a couple of moments this week where you showed no movement. Why?
Yeah.
And no work got done. So can you explain? So if they're going to find a way to be invasive at home, these big companies are going to do it and figure out a way to make sure that you are working. I found working from home, I worked more and I did work harder than I did when I was in the office. Because when I was in the office, I had the mentality of, I got to be here 9 to 5. I don't want to work more than 9 to 5 because I'm paid 9 to 5. I'm on salary. So I don't want to put any more in than I have to. But when I'm home, I'm like, I guess I need to justify working from home. So I went in, I started working at 8:30 and I noticed that I was working till 6, 7 o'clock.
Yeah. No, I think that's the way most people would be. It's just like most things, it takes like the idea of like a paradigm shift from the upper echelons of the corporate structure. It takes them realizing that that's how things would be, that in order for something like that to actually move forward.
What I find strange is that there are companies now that are going to give people options. They're going to basically say, hey, you can stay home and continue working from home, or you come back to the office and we'll give you a $30,000 raise. It's some of the bigger companies that are doing this. I read an article on it this week, and a lot of people are opting to work from home. And it's, to me, in my opinion, wouldn't you want to pay people more to work from home because they're utilizing their home resources, right? If you're W-2, right, you don't have any expenses. So if I'm working from home, I'm paying for my internet, I'm paying for phone usage, my cell phone. There's a difference here because you can't write any home expenses off. So like if you need to get yourself set up with a computer, a printer, a lap, anything along, to fully function at home from work, you're out your own expenses. The company's probably saving a little bit of money, you working from home, but you're going to offer people more money to come into work. Again, I don't understand the logic there, because by having more employees go in, now you have to have a larger space. So your rent or the building you have to purchase is going to be so much bigger. And I'm pretty sure you're going to need more internet usage. There's phone lines, all that stuff when you're in an office building. So you'd almost want to incentivize people. Why don't you stay home? We'll give you a little bit more money. We'll give you expenses. And every expense check, like let's just say the company says, give us your internet bill, give us your cell phone bill, and we're going to give you the expense money. So they're expensing it still, yet they're able to fully function as a company without having a giant commercial retail spot or not retail, but a commercial workspace.
Yeah, it would make more sense to me that, people stay home. I didn't know you couldn't write off. Like so you're telling me if I worked from home and, I bought a computer specifically for that, I bought a printer specifically for that, and I kept all those receipts, I wouldn't be able to write those off on my taxes?
You're a W-2 employee, so no. You'd have to be 1099 self-employed. Yeah. The insurance has a weird one, but I really didn't ask my accountant about it because I don't self-insurance. So I'm like, hey, listen, accountant, great guy. I'll actually say Roy Levine, amazing accountant. I will not recommend any other accountants except him. I'm like, so I pay for my own internet. I use my cell phone. I use my gas. I pay for my own lunch outings when I take people out. I host events. Can I write anything off? No.
That sucks.
If I was 1099 or if I had any sort of 1099 income, yes, I could, but I can't write anything off.
Wow.
So money comes in, money's out. It doesn't matter. So if I had to print a mortgage out, a full application, if I printed it from my home office, I'm out that expense. So if I wanted to do it, then I would actually have to go into the mortgage office and then do the printout there if I didn't want to have to pay for it myself. But obviously, I'm in Pennsylvania. My office is in New Jersey. So what am I going to do? Go all the way to New Jersey to print something out? No, I'm just going to eat the cost myself and do it that way.
Darn.
Yeah, wow. It is what it is.
It's wild.
But it's going to be interesting to see now that everything's opening up. I'm sure there are going to be companies that are going to be like, it's back to normal stuff. Back on the train, back on the bus, back into the office. Because I apparently anyone who has a vaccine now, it's normal life again.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I see they're making it so that you don't have to wear a mask anymore either. That's the CDC announced that. I saw a tweet circling around the internet that was pretty funny, and the person was basically saying like, well, it's possible the CDC just saw everybody hoarding gasoline in Burger King cups and decided that it didn't matter.
Oh my God. Yeah. It's going to be interesting what's going on in the next few months, because you're going to have people starting to go back into work. People are going to be driving themselves. So gas is going to be used. I mean, everyone freaked out. It was a hack. It's not like there's a shortage of overusage. There was a hack. There was a ransom. The ransom was paid and we're back to normal. I guess America's "we do not negotiate with terrorists" came to an end in the Biden administration.
I think it just came to an end because it was gasoline we're talking about. If it was anything else, I feel like gasoline's kind of, you want to cripple the American economy. That's how you do it.
Do you not consider this an act of terrorism in a sense? I would assume it's an act of terrorism.
Sure.
So we don't negotiate with terrorists. Literally, it was resolved almost immediately.
Is it a negotiation though? If you just like immediately give in? The guy's like, yeah, we want $50 million. Okay. All right, good. Yes.
Do you remember in Austin Powers when the guy had the missile pointing, or Dr. Evil had the missile pointing at the earth, and he's like, $1 million. And then everyone's like, okay, all right, let's do it. Wait, what?
Yeah.
Do you think they were like, they had this fucking thing? They're like, fuck, they gave us the money like right away. Should we have asked for more? We should have asked for double. And they're just like, fuck it, we got it.
Damn it. Yeah. All right.
That was easy.
Yeah, that was.
I wonder who the lumber terrorists are. Maybe we can kind of give them what they want too, so we can get back to normal prices. Building shit.
Oh God, yeah, dude, lumber's insane right now. It's so high. I was actually reading an article about that not all that long ago, and yeah, dude, it's like new homes on average cost like $36,000 more because of the lumber shortage.
My thing is it a shortage of the lumber itself, or is it the production of lumber? Because where I am, there's a lot of fucking trees. So what's the problem? Is it cutting the trees down and producing the lumber itself, or are they trying to say that there's just an overall wood shortage?
Well, I guess it's kind of a multifaceted problem, I suppose, because there was, I mean, you had the physical, the regulations of how many people could be in like a sawmill and stuff at a time during the COVID lockdown and all that. And also everybody was kind of worried about the economy at that point. So all the sawmills were they weren't really concerned about production because they didn't see exactly how it was going to go in terms of people buying houses and stuff. But I think the biggest thing of all was the tariffs from the Trump administration. Actually, there's, from what I'm reading here, and this is on CNN. So, I mean, I guess it's, take that for what's worth. CNN, they're saying that a lot of the tariffs, especially the Canadian tariffs that the Trump administration placed, had a big effect on it because I guess a lot of lumber comes from Canada. That created a logjam. But it's
you're an idiot.
But no, there was, now it's kind of, people are calling on the Biden administration to remove the 9% tariff to help ease volatility. I guess it's so bad that there's actually lumber being stolen. Like people, like cartels and stuff are straight up just stealing wood. Can you imagine?
So it's the new copper. So now you're going to go, now that not only they can take in the copper, they're taking the lumber planks off the house that don't have much wear on it.
Good Lord.
I have to assume that this is temporary. Hopefully it is temporary. And once they get their shit back together again, everything kind of goes back to normal. But I would also say what's going to happen is you're getting so many people that are getting used to paying this amount that people are going to say, well, they're paying, so why are we going to reduce it?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Ultimately, like all these things eventually get passed off to the consumer. Companies can try and do whatever they can to absorb spikes in cost and production and things like that, and raw materials, whatever. They can do their best to kind of absorb that to sort of maintain some sort of stability in pricing. But at a certain point, once they can't do that anymore, then the cost gets passed on to the consumer. And I'm sure, depending on who you talk to, sure that the lumber industry, worked as hard as it could to make sure that the prices didn't go up because they didn't want to think the consumer would have to pay more. But eventually, that's what happens with any industry, is that when the prices of things start going up for whatever reason, eventually, sooner or later, the consumer is the one who suffers. And then at that point, it's on the consumer to determine whether or not they want to keep paying for that, or if it gets to a point where it's so ridiculous that everybody kind of collectively comes together and is like, what the fuck are we doing? Like, this is way too much money.
I guess that's when the supply goes up. We all need to come together and be like, let's not buy it so it becomes cheaper. But listen, this country will never come together. So as soon as we get that out of our mind, then we can move on. But it's going to continue to be high as long as people are going to pay it. And if that means that the profit margins for the seller is just going to become much larger, they're not going to turn around and say, oh, well, I'm making too much money and the consumer's paying too much. I don't know the last time anyone's ever said that. So
yeah,
they're going to try to ride that wagon for as long as they possibly can.
Yeah. Our balance book is up percents in the triple figures, guys. This is a problem.
And again, we're in a society where every company needs to make more money the following year than they did the previous year. Mm-hmm. And from what I've been told, speaking with people who have, or companies, corporations that have made boatloads of dollars during the pandemic because people were rushing to those companies. Like I'll use Amazon as an example, CVS as an example, Home Depot, Walmart. Those companies probably made so much money in 2020 that now they're looking at 2021. They have to figure out a way to beat 2020. And so they set a new milestone on their books. And you're going to tell me, I want to hear it from somebody in the high ups that we're not going to really look at 2020 as a goal to beat. We understand that there was a pandemic going on. No, they're going to make all their employees work double as hard to make sure that they do better in 2021 than 2020. I want to hear it from someone on the board or a press release that 2020 was a very odd year and we're not going to push you to beat those numbers. It's like in the mortgage world too right now. Like 2020, it was a refinance boom, right? So and even for real estate, for certain realtors, like you have to look at this year as 2020 as a very odd year. And if you don't do that well in 2021, there wasn't a pandemic in 2021. I mean, I guess there was half a pandemic. I don't know what they're gonna write this in the history books as, but in 2022, hopefully this is all over and things are going to normalize a little bit. Interest rates are going to start to go back up. So the refi boom is over, and all the people that purchased in the last 3 years, they got those extremely low interest rates. So you can't look to refi them. So the business is gonna change, and you have to understand that during this boom, you can't think you're going to beat what you did during a time in a crisis where your business was booming. It's going to normalize. Everything's going to normalize. It's like restaurants. Everything with an outdoors setting this summer, it's going to be absolutely insane because people want to get out. People who probably don't normally go out and have lived in their fucking basement for 10 years are probably looking to go out now. So in 2022, the summer of 2022, I'd have to assume people are going to be normal again, and they might not go out as much as they did in 2021 because they weren't inside for a year straight.
Yeah. I think there's going to be a real hard rebound. I think what you're going to see is because there were a lot of companies that that did all right during the pandemic, and there were also a lot of companies that their bottom lines were affected during the pandemic. I think you're going to see a real hard rebound in the beginning of the sort of economic boom that takes place once everything sort of collectively everybody gets their shit back together and starts, things return to normal. I think you're going to see a real hard rebound to the other side. Like interest rates, for example, I predict that interest rates are actually going to go up like higher than normal for a little bit, because some of these companies are going to try and recoup the losses they incurred from things like deferments and forbearances and stuff like that.
I'm sure you're probably right. I've been saying it for a very long time. If the pandemic did not happen, summer of 2020, I think rates would have hit 4%. And I do think during this whole year, the housing market would have stayed strong with purchases. It would have, I don't want to say it would have been a buyer's market, it would have been a buyer's market, but there would have been inventory and people would have been normally selling, normally buying. And I really think we would have been in the fives come July, August. So I do think that we would have hit 5%. We just would have had a steady growth of the economy. And then this pandemic happened and it just tarantulas thrown on your parade. What was that? Was that line in that movie with Mel Gibson?
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah. It would be a real shame if I came and threw a box of tarantulas on your parade. Like, that's classic unhinged Mel Gibson. He probably never even wrote that line. The director is probably, where the fuck is that in the screenplay? He's like thumbing through the pages.
That was like his last movie that like made it in the movie theater, and it didn't do well.
I don't understand why either. I mean, I guess maybe just because Mel Gibson sort of was a polarizing figure at that point. But I mean, that the guy who was the bad guy in that movie, he was the same guy that was in 40 Days a Night. That guy's a good bad guy. He's got like a good bad guy face,
Yeah, there are some like you can only be a villain.
Yeah. Some people are just like they just have that look that's just like, ooh, this guy's evil.
He's a bad guy. Default villain.
You
ever think you and I could be a villain in a movie? Or do you just even if we like you probably I think you could.
I could be the villain in like an Austin Powers movie, maybe. But I don't know about like I could never see myself as like a real James Bond villain.
Yeah. I'm like the guy who just sits behind a desk, and as soon as like the good guy comes in, I'm just like, fuck, I'm gonna get shot. Then I like secretly like it's like John Wick and I'm like the bad guy, and it's just like, all right, he just comes over and snaps my neck and like I'm done.
Yeah. The credits start rolling. That was for my dog. Who's another person who can only be a villain? Danny Trejo. But Danny Trejo, I feel like has been actually Danny Trejo has actually been
Peter Stormare, the default Russian bad guy.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was the bad guy in Fargo, wasn't he?
He was a bad guy in Fargo. Yeah, everything he's in, I think he's a bad guy. So yeah, the world is maybe going to go back to normal, but it's now that it's starting to go back to normal, I'm starting to get a little nervous because normalcy, in my opinion, is kind of scary now. Like, what is normal?
I've been talking with people, and masks are something that I think should just be a thing now. Like, I'm not saying like all the time, but like definitely during the winter. Like, I'm somebody who usually during the winter I'll get some kind of a cold or something, and I just didn't get one this year, and I fully believe it was because of the masks. And I mean, I'm sure like everybody kind of frantically hand sanitizing and stuff like that was a factor too. But on the whole, I feel like masks in the winter maybe not such a bad thing.
I kind of agree with that. Like, I've gotten so used to. I was always a hand sanitizer user just because I'm a slight germaphobe. I've always been a germaphobe. But the mask, I didn't like it at first. And I get a little agitated in some stores where it's like hot. But you're right. I didn't get sick at all this winter. And it's like I didn't even get a common cold. I mean, maybe I had like I sneezed a couple of times, but like other than that, like it was just everything was cleaner. It's almost like I agree. We should stay there. The one real benefit about the mask is you can't see me when I'm judging someone anymore. Like, yeah. I love that my face is hidden. I was in a Dollar Tree right before Mother's Day. I'm overspending $7 on cards. So I will only go to the dollar store to buy greeting cards. And God forbid I don't get a greeting card for my mother. It turns into a disaster. So I had to get a greeting card. So I'm in there, right? And I'm waiting in line. And there's this mother and daughter in front of me. I'm like, oh, that's nice. Now she had a British accent. Like it was a really thick British accent. And I'm not really good at accents. So, they're talking and she goes, "Oh, can you give us a couple of Cokes?" And she had a bunch of candy in the thing, whatever, like going to be rung up. And so the person ringing up the stuff was like, "Oh my God, I love this candy. It's really good." And the British girl was like, "Oh, I love it too, but I can't eat too much of it. I ain't got no teeth." And my eyes like open now, and I'm like, "Oh God." I'm like, "This is borderline funny." And the little girl goes, "Mommy, you got teeth?" "Well, I only got 7," she replies with. And I'm like, "Oh my God." Like, thank God I have this fucking mask on, because I'm like laughing. I can't, like, this is all happening right in front of me. Of course, there's no one else here experiencing this, or I'm the only asshole that finds this funny. But I'm like, having this mask was perfect because I was smiling throughout that entire thing. Now you could tell a little bit about my eyes. They were moving because when I smile, my forehead gets a little bit wrinkled and my eyes go up, but they can't tell that I'm smiling. So to me, not only does it protect me from, maybe the illness, or, somebody had COVID, the mask, stops me from getting COVID. It also stops me from being a dick.
That's funny.
So I fully support the mask year round. When you're out and about, I'm totally cool with it. And listen, if you feel comfortable in a spot, take it off. But I like the idea. I also like the idea of social distancing. I don't think they should ever remove that 6-foot rule. Stay the fuck back if I don't know you.
Mm-hmm. Now that is something I can absolutely get behind. Like, there's the concept of like personal space. I think there needs to be more of it in like a grocery store line, because there's nothing worse than when you're in line at like a grocery store and you got some old lady who's like right up your ass with the cart. I can't stand that.
I think anywhere, even when you like go to get a cup of coffee, you're waiting in line and somebody's like, "All right, well, it doesn't move any faster if you're 2 inches from me." So whether you're 6 feet, 12 feet, 2 inches, everything is going to go as fast as it's supposed to. It doesn't matter. And I'll tell you, people, even with mask on, people got like too comfortable again. Like, they're just, "Why are you getting so close to me?"
Mm-hmm.
I almost want to be like, "I have COVID. Back the fuck up."
Yeah. I have the new strain of COVID 21.
But it's coming to an end. Hopefully it remains this way. And like I said, I'm game for keeping wearing masks. Of course, there's probably going to be that time where you're one of the only people wearing a mask, and then you're going to get one of those extremely annoying conservative people. "Why are you still wearing a mask?"
Oh, I see it already. People are out and about, and now they're doing the thing where like they'll pull the mask down to talk to you, and then they'll be like, "Oh, sorry, but I'm vaccinated, so it's so it's okay." And it's like, no, it's not. I don't want to see your mouth. Like, like that's really what it boils down. It's an aesthetic thing for me. Like, I don't your whole mouth area. I don't want to see it.
Have you noticed though that, like, when the masks are off, do you look at people's mouths now and you try to see if anything comes out? I've noticed that there are a lot more people who spit when they talk than I've ever realized before.
Is it just that you're more aware of it now, or do you think it's a thing like now that people are taking the masks off and they have the air on their mouth, they're like excessively salivating because they never had to with the mask, they didn't have to worry about it. Now they're just like suffering succotash.
I don't know, man. I noticed that I do too, and I don't know if it was before or after. I don't know. I don't have an answer to that. I wonder now if people though are gonna like just start sneezing freely.
I remember one time I was at the grocery store and the guy in line in front of me pulled down his mask to sneeze, and I don't normally say things to people, but I could, like, this guy was just a dunce. I could just tell by the way he was acting, and when he did that, I was like, "Did you just pull down your mask?" And I mean, he did it so hard. He had his glasses like in his shirt, like
One of those.
he sneezed, they like flew off and went in the cart. Oh yeah, like a really like dramatic sneezer, like "I have the floor and I am expelling mucus," like. But I was literally like, "Yo, man, did you just pull down your mask to sneeze?" And he looked at me. He was like kind of horrified that I kind of said anything to him. And he was like, yeah, I did." And I was like, "Okay, just making sure. Just, good job."
People are just careless, and I do think that when people are careless, sometimes they go out of their way to be careless. It's kind of like the people who use a blinker and don't use a blinker. You have to be aware that you're not using a blinker. Like, I think anybody that just drives and doesn't use a blinker, I fucking hate them. If I could have any group of people just eliminated off this earth, it'd be people who don't use their blinkers when changing lanes. I don't know why it annoys me, and it induces road rage. Like, if somebody goes in front of me and does not use a blinker, I actually do go out of my way to cut them off.
Mhm.
Like, it's a thing. I don't care. Like, I can't stand people who don't use blinkers, and I think they are doing it on purpose. Like, they know they're not using a blinker. There's no sense of, oh, I didn't realize I wasn't using a blinker. No, you know that you're not using a blinker. You just don't care. And so you're an asshole. Use a blinker, because if you ever cut me off, we have a problem.
I mean, it ought to be muscle memory at this point. Like, you should be able to just do it unconsciously, I feel like.
Yeah, and it's the same people with the whole mask stuff. Like, if you have it on your chin, even like, I mean, again, now it doesn't really matter because you're going to be able to take it off again. But like the people who don't have it on, or they're on their cell phone, and the person that you're talking to, just an FYI, whether you have your mask on or off, they hear you. It's either you like, it doesn't matter. So like, you're just being careless. You're just being careless. And it's acknowledged carelessness.
Well, that's like the same people who are like in public and they have the cell phone and they're like, they got it on speaker and they like hold it up to their mouth to talk in it. Like, it's like they're in a fucking 90s spy movie and they're in the walkie talkie. And it's like, I mean, like, why do you have to you don't have to hold it up to, that's the whole point of speaker, is like, you can hear the person and then you can talk to the person and you can keep the phone a reasonable distance away from you can keep the phone a reasonable distance away from your mouth, and you don't have to do that. You don't have to put it right up there.
So what you just described, Tom, is how I have every single phone conversation with almost everyone. So did you say that on purpose?
I did not.
You
hurt
my feelings.
I have actually never noticed you doing that, because if I did, I am positive I would have said something.
Well, see, that's good. I'm sure there are people who hate people that do that, like me. And if it annoys them that much, people like me would be eliminated. So that's okay. I'm glad I could potentially be part of somebody else's elimination, somebody completely different. So that's good.
I don't think those people need to be eliminated, but maybe maybe something a little more reasonable, like, they just need to be sent to like a re-education camp.
Perhaps. A lot of other stuff has gone on over the past couple of weeks, I guess, or actually just the past week. We've actually been doing this now weekly. We've been good, man. We've been consistent.
We have been fairly consistent with this, I will say. Consistency is not one of my strong suits. So personally, I am proud of myself and I'm proud of us.
I'm proud of us too, because consistency is not really, it's like going to the gym. It's like, you do it for like, you do 3 days in a row and you're like, this is going to be part of my new routine. And then you just stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I remember when I was in the Army, man, I used to go to the gym all the time. And then I remember everybody in the Army saying to me, like, well, you're going to get fat when you get out. And I was like, the fuck I am. Like, I'm going to go, I'm going to make sure I keep going. And then all of a sudden, like 3 months went by and I just like on the couch one day and I was like, oh shit, they were right. Like, I don't think I've been to the gym once.
But I guess now that everything is getting back to normal, from what I'm reading, is you're going to be able to hop on a treadmill next to your best friend again and start working out like normal. I wonder if people will still remember to clean after themselves, or if it's going to be that act of carelessness again, where you go on the treadmill, you get to spray a little bit, and you don't really clean as you normally do because you were never really a clean person. You just were one of those people who hopped on a treadmill and then just left. So I wonder if we will get back into this careless society again of hygiene. Do you think people are still going to use hand sanitizer and try to be clean? Or do you think once the world opens back up again, everything just becomes dirty again?
I don't think it's going to be dramatic. Like, like one day everybody just kind of collectively decides like, like, screw it, I don't care anymore. But I think it is going to be a gradual thing. And I think probably, even if it's like 3 years from now, like, you're going to have people like who have largely forgotten about this whole period of time. And they're just going to have fallen right back into the old routines of not really caring.
Carelessness is no good.
I mean, I'm a judger too. Like, when it comes to that kind of stuff, like if I see somebody walk out of the bathroom without having washed their hands, like, I don't care if you only made lemonade and you didn't touch anything. Like, you do it. Just do it.
Yeah, just wash your fucking hands after you take a leak.
Yeah, you were in the bathroom, for Christ's sake. Like, yeah.
Oh, here's the thing. This is a tough one. If you could eliminate the people who don't use blinkers or eliminate the people who don't wash their hands after going to the bathroom, who would you eliminate?
Definitely the people who don't wash their hands. Because you might, like, people who don't use turn signals is one thing. Like, I hate those people, but those people don't have to contribute directly to my suffering. But people who don't wash their hands, like, they just skeeve me out. They give me this image of like everything in the bathroom just being absolutely like covered in filth. And then it makes me, it just generally kind of brings me down. It adds a little malaise into the old day.
Yeah, that's a tough one for me. I actually think I would end up eliminating the people who don't use blinkers still. That really gets me, but I guess I'd have to see. It's been a very long time since I've been in a public restroom with another person who ends up not washing their hands, so I forgot the anger that I feel when I see that, or just the disgust.
Well, there's probably a considerable amount of like crossover if you think about it, because the type of person who doesn't wash their hands in a bathroom is probably also the same person who's like, I don't need to change lanes. Like, fuck them. You can see I'm getting over, whatever. So
that's a very good point. Yeah, maybe there is a good crossover with that.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess either way it works. You can, there's a little bit of a happy medium. So maybe you get rid of all the non-hand washers. Maybe you get rid of 25 to 30% of the non-blinker users. So, and it could go hand in hand. Just we'll see.
We'll see when the extinction comes to pass.
That'd be when Wishmaster comes, he comes to me and he's like, all right, you have one wish, and he's thinking I'm going to give something like, ridiculous. And I'm like, I want you to get rid of all the people who don't use blinkers. And he's just like, wow, that's an interesting one.
Yeah. He's like trying to still like be coy about it, but he's like, that is an odd wish.
I might not kill you after this one, actually. This is a good wish.
No, then you like go to the hospital and like the only doctor who like knows how to operate on whatever illness you've contracted or whatever is like somebody who doesn't wash his hands. And he's like, yeah, all right, I'm going to operate on this patient. I'm the only one who knows how to do it. And he's just like, you wished everybody who washed their hands to die. Well,
I have noticed though, a lot of the people who don't use blinkers seem to have higher end cars. So it's the doctors and lawyers who don't use blinkers.
Yeah, there is the whole stereotype where like the most unused piece of a BMW is the turn signal.
I really don't like those people. And listen, any listeners, if you don't use your blinker, take this as a time to start using your blinker. And if you don't wash your hands after using the bathroom, you're a scumbag. Like you're dirty. Like, start washing your hands. Okay.
Now, if we could expand the blinker to just general driving etiquette, like, don't stay in the left lane on like a highway and go slow. That's something that like irrationally irritates me when people are in the left lane and they just go into like a state of like road hypnosis or something where they're just doing like, you're like on the thruway or whatever, and somebody's just doing 60 in the left lane. And it's like, why are you doing this? Why are you subjecting all of us to this?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, more or less, I see a lot of people get very angry at that person. And like, it's the time where you pass them. You normally use a blinker, but then people just cut that person off without using a blinker. So I don't want those non-blinker users. They're okay. So like, if you're not using a blinker to cut off the person that's going 60 miles an hour in the left lane, that's okay, because you're expressing your annoyance at the asshole that's going 60 miles an hour in the 65 mile per hour speed zone in the left lane.
Yeah. That's why you got to be real careful what you wish for.
Exactly. Because then I guess I'm eliminating myself.
That's exactly what had happened to you. You'd make that wish and be like, yes, I feel so good about having made that wish. And then somebody's going to do that. And you're going to be like, you son of a bitch. And you cut them off. You're like, no. Your car just explodes.
Exactly. Well, if you have noticed, traffic is getting worse again. It's getting back to normal. So normalcy comes with traffic.
Yeah.
So we're back to it.
Traffic has been bad since the pandemic around me because there's just been such an influx of people moving into the area. Traffic now is worse than I ever remember it having been in the past. So it's going to be very interesting once everything like kind of lifts up and people who have thus far not been leaving the house start leaving the house again. Like, yeah, it's really going to get wild.
Yeah, they're going to have to do that eminent domain stuff on a bunch of spots in Kingston because they need to add like a brand new lane in certain spots. Like that single lane each way is not going to cut it if everyone's coming up there. So they're going to have to start breaking into some ground. And of course, it's going to cost money. So you know what that means. Everyone's taxes in Kingston are about to skyrocket. They're going to have to do they're going to have to add a lane. It's going to have to be either 3 lanes or 2 lanes. Like they got to do it. So how's the road work over there? Can I tell you the other thing that really annoys me with everything is that now they're starting to do road work construction again. It's like you really couldn't do all of this when nobody was fucking driving every day.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're going to do it now. Like you mean to tell me, governor of New Jersey and New York, you couldn't figure out a way to make safe work conditions and just have your construction workers and state workers work and get the roads done when no one's on there? You really had to wait until everyone's starting to drive again. To me, it flabbergasted me. Is that the right word?
Flabbergasted, yeah, it's the word.
Yeah, it flabbergasted me. I had to go to Long Island the other day for Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. Happy Mother's Day, Allison.
Happy Mother's Day, Jenny and Allison.
So I had to go over the Throgs Neck Bridge. And this bridge has been under construction now, I think, for over 3 years. And I would have thought during the pandemic, when it was no one on the road, they could just finish the bridge. Obviously, they didn't. They're doing it now. There's a giant hole in the middle of that bridge. And I'm like nervous going over it now. It's like, with all new infrastructure, like just collapsing, do we really trust this Throgs Neck Bridge? Like we're going over this bridge like everything's fine. And it's just like, this doesn't look fine. It's scary going over it. Dude, there's a hole in the bridge. There's a giant hole in the bridge in the middle. And it's just, all right, well, we're just going on, all these cars going.
Maybe it's a new type of architectural design, the donut bridge, the bagel bridge. That'd be stupid. Yeah, New York State's got a thing with bridges, man. They're not good at them because they redid the Kingston Rhinecliff Bridge and they added a bike path and a walking path.
What asshole gave permission to do that?
That was Cuomo himself. Cuomo actually, like, that was one of his big things. He was super proud of that. And then they messed it up and like they put the rumble strip, like they had to redo the whole bridge. And so the rumble strip was in the center of the lane. So, but not like the direct center, but it was in the center enough so that you were hitting it when you were on the bridge. So the whole ride over the bridge was like, and then once they fixed it now, I mean, it's better than that, but it's still like, what was the point? I don't ever see anybody walking over that bridge. It's not like that bridge is on it like a walking path or anything. Like, what are you just going to park on one side of the bridge and then walk over it and be like, oh, well, that was fun. Anyway.
But now in terms of safety, right? Because bridges hold a certain weight. They actually separated the road from the bike trail with those cement blocks. How much weight is each cement block? And if there's like bumper to bumper traffic both ways going over the bridge, like, do you exceed weight? That's a lot. There's hundreds of thousands of pounds then on that bridge if there's literally standstill traffic both ways and those cement blocks on there.
Well, that's some of the people that I was talking to in Red Hook. I mean, some of these people were like engineers and stuff like that. And they were saying that, that Jersey barrier that's on the bridge is too heavy. It makes it too heavy. And they were worried about how it's going to hold up over time. I don't think it's going to collapse or anything like that. But, I do see like, maybe it puts additional wear on the bridge. And now there has to be maintenance on it every 3 years instead of every 5 years or something like that. That's
fucking Cuomo, man. Catering to the cyclist. You know what? Cyclists go on the same elimination list as people who don't use blinkers. I'm not talking about people who ride their bikes like from time to time around the block. I'm talking about the people who wear those skin tight spandex with the little tires that are super thin. I can't stand those people.
Yeah. Hometown Lance Armstrongs. They're a little bit obnoxious sometimes. It's one of those things, like if you're in a bike, you have to realize that like cars are way heavier than you. You can't be the schmuck who's like, well, technically, I have a right to the road too. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, technically, but every pedestrian who's been run over and murdered probably had the right of way to walk in the road, but it's a matter of like, self-preservation. I guess.
I couldn't stand them when I used to work at Bread Alone in Rhinebeck. When they all came in like groups of people, I'm just like, oh, they're not tipping. I don't know. I don't know what it is with them, but they're non-tippers. So when you see a group of those cyclists come in with their sunglasses and their helmets still on, coming inside a coffee shop, they never leave. They never left a penny.
Mm-hmm.
So they never tipped. They're cheap. It's like a weird thing. They're cheap people.
When I used to work in Fort Lee, there were times where rather than take the Palisades, like if I was trying to take like sort of a scenic ride there, I would take 9W sometimes. I would take 9W all the way down because there's some nice views of the Hudson and whatnot. And like there were some spots in 9W where it's like, the lanes are kind of narrow. You already feel like you don't have quite enough room. And then you get the cyclist on top of it who even the fastest cyclist is not going like as fast as like the normal speed of a car. And it's like, buddy, what are you? There's going to be some flowers and a cross on the side of the road for you if you don't watch out.
Yeah, and they're like, when they come in a group, man, if you're the one car on the road, it's like they don't care.
No, they don't give a shit.
That was the one good thing about leaving Englewood, because when you're at like the real northeast part of New Jersey, like Fort Lee, they shut down roads for these people to go on a leisure ride. Like, who's in charge of that? Why do you allow that to happen? Shutting down roads for these people? Like, no, the road was meant for cars, not for cyclists. Okay.
I mean, I don't know. I can kind of get behind the idea of like, a lot of urban areas, like some cities are making car-free zones and stuff for people. Basically you like park outside it, and then everything within that is like a walking path or a cycling path or something like that. I could get behind that as a sort of like urban renewal kind of idea, because in cities, cars are a source of congestion, and parking lots are basically just big places that they take away like land from other things that could be in the air. Something like Englewood, which is kind of like I wouldn't say that's kind of like a suburb sort of outside of more metropolitan areas.
Here's my solution. If you want me to treat you like another vehicle on the road, I think anybody that wants to be a cyclist, they need to get a license, little tiny license on their little bike that they pay for, and they should have all the same fees a driver does. Maybe not the same amount, but they should get their own insurance. They should get their own license for cycling and have them go through the whole process of becoming a cyclist. Don't make it easy for them just to hop up on their little skinny tired bike and ride away. I say, if cyclists want to go on a main road, they should have to pay what a driver has to pay.
I can agree with that if you said that, like, the people who are who are clearly kitted out for biking and they're in the spandex suit and they've got like the $300.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
Those are the people. Yes, absolutely. I think they should pay it. But
I'm not talking. Listen, I'm not talking about the little girl and her dad that are going for a stroll around the block. Those people are fine. I like those people. I don't like cyclists. I mean, to me, they're all the same. They're 7 feet tall. They're wearing spandex suits. They have their sunglasses on and their helmet on, and they have to look down in order to talk to you.
With like their weird, like shark fin helmet.
Yeah. Do they have to pay the toll when they go over the bridge?
I don't know.
I don't think they do. See, I also find that bullshit. Like, I'm sure now the toll went up. If you notice, tolls went up all around during the pandemic. Another price increase.
Really?
Yeah, every toll went up. I went there's one toll going from New Jersey to Pennsylvania. It was like $1.50. Now it's $3. And then a lot of the tolls that I paid in New Jersey were $1.50. It now seems they're $1.90. So they raised it 40 cents. And I believe going over the Rhine Cliff Bridge it's probably like close to $2 now. So I would actually think every time a cyclist wants to go over that bridge, it's their fault that, what do you call them? New Jersey barriers?
It's just a Jersey barrier.
Jersey barrier. Those are there because of them, because they want to feel a difference between the cars. So they should have to pay for them, not the increase in toll for the cars. I say for everybody that wants to ride a bike over that bridge, they should pay $1 too. They should. Why should they get the free ride?
Maybe they do. Maybe they do have to pay the dollar. I don't think they do, but maybe.
I don't think they do either, because then that means, oh my God, imagine you just got a toll full of like 100 bikers that are about to go over the bridge, and it's just like you now have to wait for them to move their fanny pack, take out their little, they probably don't have a wallet or a money clip. They have like one of those things where it holds both the credit cards and the money, but they're all showing.
Yeah.
So they take that out of their fanny pack, and they ask for a receipt, all of them.
If I submit this to my PPO, I get a discount on my health insurance.
God.
Oh God, what a dystopia.
What else went on this week? We saw Mortal Kombat finally.
We did. I enjoyed it. It was an entertaining movie. It had some plot points that kind of left me scratching my head, but on the whole, it was a good movie.
Yeah, there was no Mortal Kombat.
No, there was no tournament.
There was no tournament. But I guess if you look into it, the way that he's writing it is the first one is getting to the tournament kind of thing. The second one's going to be the tournament, and then the third one's going to be after the tournament.
Jesus.
So there is a trilogy planned out. So it looks like Mortal Kombat worldwide is a little over 70 million right now, maybe 75. So I have to assume that's a success because it was on HBO Max. And I know it had a very high view rating, so they're definitely going to do the sequel. I hope the sequel is better, and it makes enough money to get a third one. But I wonder if it doesn't do well if they just stop, because it's almost like they said trilogy, so now I'm looking forward to a trilogy, and I hope I get it no matter what.
Well, time out for a second here, right? Because this is something that I think about a lot, right? If you're a company and you create something, and then you don't have the fortitude to stand behind the product that you created, like how do you ever expect me to like anything again? Right? That's a theme that I see prevalent in every industry. Every company is willing to bail on something if it doesn't immediately make them the money that they project it's going to make, right? So like I see Coca-Cola came out with this drink. It's a coffee and soda combo. And I see a lot of people, drinking them. They seem to be being fairly well received. And it's the kind of thing where it's like, I don't personally understand the sort of direction behind it. Like what market are you trying to corner with this? Are you trying to go after people having brunch or something like that? I don't really understand the appeal myself, but that said, a fair amount of people like it. I don't mind the drink. I've had it. So it's not too bad, but how are you going to get a dedicated fan base if you release something like that and then you take it away? Because you're not going to give it time to establish itself as a product. And I don't know if Coke's plans are to get rid of that, but I know it happens in other things too. Like, for example, I will give you an example that I actually experienced. I used to watch this show on CNBC, and it was called the Staten Island Hustle. And it was a show about like a bunch of Italian people, Staten Island. And there was one guy who was kind of like the sort of head of the group or whatever. And he and all his buddies would every week they'd meet up at like this restaurant or whatever, and they'd all talk about like their different ideas they had during the week. They'd discuss the ideas they had, and if one of them was a good idea, they'd all say like, yeah, let's go ahead and try this. Let's see if this is a good idea to make money off of. And then the rest of the week was them trying to establish that idea and everything else. And it was a fun show. Sure, it was a reality show. So I mean, you got to assume there's some level of scripting involved, but it was a fun show. I liked it. It wasn't anything, I thought was going to win any awards, but I thought it was okay. And so I start watching it, and I start getting a little wrapped up in these people. I like watching them every week. I want to know what the next scheme is, And then all of a sudden, one week I came on, and I had it set to record on my DVR. So I didn't see it. And I was like, okay. So it wasn't getting recorded anymore. I thought that, well, that's weird. And I'm like, well, maybe they changed the time or something. So then, I keep looking through, and like, no, this show's not on anymore. Now it's just like 3-hour blocks of Shark Tank. I guarantee you, like, nobody missed an episode. Nobody was sitting there going like, hell yes, Shark Tank's on again. Like the 6-hour marathon again. Like the CNBC does not miss. So that already annoys me. But then the idea that like you had this show, you teased it enough to like get me interested, and then you just pull it away from me. Like, what is the point of doing that? And I'll give you another example. There used to be in the 2000, Snapple had a bunch of drinks. Now, do you remember these drinks, Chris? They were like the ones that were like based after elements or something like that. There was like fire and water, but it wasn't water.
Yeah, it was like the response to So Be to try to like compete with them or something, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so I used to love these things. I thought they were great. I used to get the there was one, I think it was Energy or something like that. And I used to get that one all the time. And like I remember that being a staple of my childhood, playing video games and drinking that. And like that was like a summer that happened, and it happened enough to like really cement a good, memory in my head as a kid. And then all of a sudden it's gone. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like I liked this thing. Why can't I get it anymore? And then you have to just start going to more and more fringe stores on, as the supply dwindles until like they get to a point where they're like, it's like $300 for a 6-pack of them on eBay. And it's like, as a consumer, right, I can only get joy from products that interest me. And if you're going to market a product towards me and I am actually interested and I go to get that product and then I start consuming that product regularly and I say like, this is something that I'm going to integrate into my routine because I like it. And then it's gone. You fucked up my whole routine. Like you're a jerk. And like, I don't know. So to bring it back to Mortal Kombat, if they're going to make 2 movies and then they stop and they don't make a third one, like that is a dick move. That is a dick move. You need to have the fortitude to be able to stand behind something that you started. You have to see it through to completion. Otherwise it's going to end up in the same bin as Taco Bell spicy Frito burrito, the Snapple teas or even the Sobe teas. I haven't seen a Sobe tea in years. So I have to assume that they're discontinued too. So if you're a corporation, you're going to make something, you have to have the fortitude to stand behind it and stick it out for a little while. That's my take on it.
I definitely agree. I think with the movies and TV shows, like they should always finish something because there are people who did enjoy it. Let's just say it didn't take off as much as you wanted it to, but you have a story to tell. Allow people to finish the story.
Mm-hmm.
And if it means that your budget's going to get cut and it just sucks, then let it suck.
Right. It was, it wasn't something that you were, what a good example of that was with another show was Carnival. Carnival never ended. And that was a phenomenal show. And it's just a giant question mark. Yep. Yeah. You got just enough wrapped up into the universe where now all of a sudden, now everything's coming to a head. And then that's it. It's like, oh, well, yeah, have fun. You fill in the blanks, jerk off.
It's like Deadwood. Deadwood had 3 seasons, phenomenal show, and it just ended after season 3. And it's like, what happened? And 20 years later, HBO finally was like, all right, let's just give them. There was a fan base, and they gave a Deadwood movie. I mean, it was okay. It concluded it. It wasn't fantastic, but at least everyone got an ending.
Yeah, that's it. Closure is what I want, right? If you're. And I guess it's harder to do that with like a product than it is with a movie. But my point still stands, I think. If you're going to discontinue something, like you better have a really good reason. And it better not be that it just fell a little bit short of, your.
I mean, let me ask you this. Like I don't know if you've had the Coke and coffee.
I have. It's not bad. So
would you have preferred Coke saying for a limited time, we're going to offer this? And then really it's in the consumer's mind, all right, we only have this for a limited time, but then Coke's like, listen, if it does take off, we're gonna mass produce it.
Absolutely. The limited time thing is a good disclaimer because that cements it in my head as a consumer, like, all right, this is transient. There is a period of time that this thing is going to exist, and then it will cease to be after that. That sets me up. It lets me know not
every single new product then should just be for a limited time, just to get people's hopes not up.
Yeah. Honestly, like if that's the way things are going to continue to be, then yeah, they should be.
I have to assume all of these companies now need to come up with something new. So they're just going to throw a bunch of shit out to see what sticks.
Yeah, probably. You're probably going to see some really wacky things. I've been saying for years, one thing that Coca-Cola should do, if they really want to try and reinvent the wheel here when it comes to soda, they ought to make a mint Coca-Cola. I would drink the shit out of that. I would keep that on the shelves by myself.
It's going to be crazy new products coming out. I'm sure at some point, once weed becomes legalized, they're going to come up with some CBD drink with Coke.
Coke Mellow.
But no, be honest. There's gonna be a product that gets mass produced by one of these big companies where you can just go into a store and Hershey's and weed.
God. Just think about that too. Like, think about the advertising that's going to go into that. Like, I already feel like soda commercials are insufferable enough as it is. So, like, just imagine like them trying to like really appeal to like the weed demographic. Like, they're going to go out of their way to just make the most like stomach churning commercials.
I think the candies really have it though, because they can just like throw legs and hands on the candy and put little faces on there and just be like, "Yo, what up?"
Yeah. Get like rapper endorsements.
Know what I mean? Reese's and weed.
It's the new Travis Scott Reese's cup.
Try Willie Nelson's hamburger.
Yeah, only at Burger King. Have it your way, dude.
But no, I think the limited time thing is a good disclosure to have on things, just so nobody's hopes get up and it's just you're prepping for yourself that this is eventually going to go away. And let me just buy as much as I can now. And if it takes off, then listen, then you get to keep the product. I mean, who the hell said that Mountain Dew Code Red was good enough to stay? Like, I don't like Code Red at all.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the barometer is that there's obviously some sort of threshold that something's got to pass in terms of sales or whatever, that makes it that makes it stick around on the shelves. But like, yeah, I've never seen a person drinking Mountain Dew Code Red like completely of their own volition. Like, it's always because it's either like that or like a 3-year-old Aquafina that's like all wrinkled, and those are like the only two things to choose from in the vending machine, or like something.
And then you'll take the Code Red. Actually, now I kind of want to go to the store and get one just because I forgot what it tastes like. But I know I don't like it, but I just want to have that forgotten taste that I don't like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like candy corn. It's been so long since I've had candy corn that now when I see candy corn, I have to like override my impulse to try and have it, because I'm like, no, you don't like that.
Yeah, but see, they're another one. They've tried so many different candy corns out there. So like, I think they tried it with chocolate candy corn. They have strawberry candy corn. There's so many different candy corns now that it doesn't say limited time. It's like the damn what are the marshmallow? I think they're terrible. The Marsh Peeps.
Oh, Peeps. Yeah.
There's
Peeps.
So many different Peeps now.
I have never understood the appeal of the Peep. It's a marshmallow covered in like granular sugar. Like, I mean, I guess if you absolutely, if I absolutely needed a sugar, I don't even think then I'd eat a Peep. Honestly, Peeps are just not something I've ever thought about. How does a company like Peep stay? I mean, there's got to be an audience, right? There's got to be a market for people who love Peeps.
Dude, no, there really is. There is a market for Peeps.
Because I mean, who even makes Peeps? Is it like Brax or somebody?
It has to be one of the big dogs in there, because you can't just survive making Peeps for once a year and then not really have to do much.
Peeps are made by. This is weird. This is really weird. Peeps are produced by a company called Just Born, a candy manufacturer founded in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, by Russian immigrant Sam Born. Okay, so that makes the name a little less strange. Just Born. I feel like that's one of those.
Is it like Bourne?
Nope, it's Born. But that's the guy's name. So one of the notes on the Peep Wikipedia page is alleged indestructibility.
Oh my God.
Peeps are like Twinkies. 1999, scientists at Emory University jokingly, and that has a footnote, performed experiments on batches of Peeps to see how easily they could be dissolved, burned, or otherwise disintegrated using agents such as cigarette smoke, boiling water, and liquid nitrogen.
Jesus Christ.
And they concluded that Peeps wouldn't dissolve in anything except sulfuric acid.
Well, I guess they need to last from Easter to Easter. So they make these things, and these things just stay. You don't sell them. You can put them on the shelf next year.
Yeah. Oh, God. Oh my God.
Makes you question like all the expiration dates that are on things.
Well, dude, listen to this. As marshmallow ages exposed to air, it dehydrates, becoming stale and slightly crunchy. According to Just Born, 25% to 30% of their customers prefer eating Peeps stale. Are you shitting me? What kind of a maniac is out here? Like, what? Who's doing this? Who's
Wow.
oh, these Peeps aren't aged enough for me. Oh my God.
That's
that just goes to show
insane.
you we're not wrong. We are in the right. Peeps are not good. And there are varying levels of just degeneracy involved in enjoying Peeps.
I feel like Peeps are only enjoyed by younger children and then old people without teeth.
That's true. If I had no teeth, maybe Peeps would be a game changer.
Oh, the sugar feels good on my gums when I chew them.
Good Lord. Maybe on that note, we should call it.
We'd like to thank you all again for listening. We are hoping to be structured enough to have a interview ready for you all next week. If not, you'll just get us two again and we'll find some random stuff to talk about, but I'm sure we will have a new interview for you.
I like to think it'll work out.
Yeah, absolutely.
But,
things always work out. That's as long as you think they're going to work out, they're going to work out.
Yeah.
So have a good evening, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again soon.
See you next time.
Bye.
Good night. Bye.